I've been keen to just brush this off as well, because they don't really care. Whatever definition you really give isn't something that they're going to like care about, because they already, this is a rhetorical question. They're not going to accept the answer that you give unless it's the answer that they want you to give. They're already staked out on this point, and they post hoc justified it already. And they'll say many things to justify it. We can go over it, but it's not important. Why is the definition of the word woman important for a Supreme Court justice? Genuinely curious. Why is that really important? Now, some people may bring up, oh, but what about like Roe v. Wade? Well, in Roe v. Wade, the word woman doesn't come up. You know that, right? The word woman doesn't come up. The word woman isn't in the Constitution anywhere. Not once. The word woman isn't in there once. Oh, what about the amendment that gave women the right to vote, the 19th Amendment? The 19th Amendment doesn't have the word woman in there once. Oh, what about the 1964 Civil Rights Act? 1965 Civil Rights Act. What about the Civil Rights Act? It's going to be important there. Like, you got to know what a woman is there. Well, no. The word woman isn't in that law either. Wild, isn't it? Title IX, woman isn't in there. They use broad terms like gender or just people, because these laws are not based on your ideology. They're based on what will stand the test of time. Our idea of gender can change. The idea that we want these people to be protected from discrimination, period, should not. And we don't want to have to go dig through these laws over and over and over again. When our societal definition of things change, we want this to stay in one point, in one place, and stand the test of time, so we won't have to go over it over and over again. That's why they don't use the word. They're a little bit smarter than that. And it makes a lot of sense. So gender is not predetermined based on sex. And when we have these conversations, we're not talking really about sex, we're talking about gender. We can talk about sex too if you want. The conservatives lose on that ground too, but we're talking about gender here. Gender is not constituted for sex. Here's the thing, okay? Circling back to, well, they're connected usually. Well, they're connected usually, all right? Because that's just kind of how like people work. But you can't say that we live in a binary system. You can't, period. You cannot. You just can't, all right? Because you have to acknowledge that intersex people exist, all right? You can't say that a binary system. I took electrical engineering when I was in school, all right? I did electrical engineering, all right? I did some programming. I made some circuits. And let me tell you, and all my time and all the time that I've heard from other electrical engineers, they will tell you that binary is 2. That's it, all right? Binary is not 0 and 1 and sometimes 2, okay? It's not 0 and 1 and sometimes 0.5. That's not how binary works, all right? There's never been a time where binary has come up and then there's been like a -1 or a 0.5 or a 2. It's literally 0 and 1. So if there's one integer in there, if there's one part of that group in there that is not 0 or 1, congratulations, you don't have a binary anymore. You have a bimodal distribution. No matter how small you think it is, if they're there, if they exist, congratulations, you now have a bimodal distribution. How cute. How nice. Wow. Even if it's one number, I don't care how big or how small it is, because conservatives will bring up, they're like 0.002% of the population. That's not true, just so you know. A lot of conservatives will say that they're incredibly small portion. It's known to be about 2% of adults in the country are intersex of some flavor. We'll talk about that. Wild, right? Because actually, as we know so far, 2% is more than the amount of people who are redheaded, okay? And I think that we'll all understand that redheaded people exist. And if we're going to understand that redheaded people exist in the world, and there's more intersex people in the world that we know of so far, then there are redheaded people in the world, like statistically speaking. I don't know why we shouldn't understand that intersex people exist and are real. But once again, don't take me and what I say. Let's listen to what some scientists have to say about the issue. Wild, right? I'm going to warn you now. You're going to look at something very complicated, and it may give you some anxiety. Okay, boom. Here it is. This is the scientific understanding of sex right now. This is our current scientific understanding of sex. And if you are looking at this and you're confused, congratulations, you're a normal human being. Gender and sex are different. That's the first thing that we need to get down. That's the first important thing that we need to get down. Gender and sex are different. They've always been different. In the past, they've been less different, but they've always been different. Gender is not sex and sex is not gender. Now, a big retort that conservatives will say, yeah, but well, they're linked. There's a reason why like most men are male and most women are female. Well, yeah, they're linked, but linked and the same, that's a pretty big difference, isn't it? That's a pretty big difference, I think personally. And that's been proven throughout time because people's genders do not always correlate to how they feel. And honestly, what I think is most important is what's between your ears and not really what's between your legs. And thankfully, science seems to feel the same exact way, right? We're people, we're interesting, we're weird, we don't make sense a lot of the time. But no matter how much sense it makes to you, you don't get to dictate how someone else should live their life, or if they're worthy of respect and dignity that other human beings do, simply because you haven't put in the time, the effort, or you just don't care to understand them. That's not anybody else's problem but yours. And I don't think that you should be able to dictate how other people's lives should go based on that. It's their life. Shut up. Just shut up for a moment, okay? If you don't care, go back to not caring and use the correct pronouns whenever you come across them. The thing is, it really isn't that big of a deal. It truly isn't. Like, there's a lot of trans people online. You probably won't come into contact with a trans person in like real life, like at the mall or something, or at the bank or at Walmart. It's probably not gonna, like, let's be honest with ourselves, it's probably not gonna happen. And when you do, you're probably not even gonna know in the first place. You're just gonna see him and then instantly use the pronouns that you would just like use for any other type of person. Let's be honest with ourselves. The likelihood of you finding one is quite low. So I mean, what you can do is just use the right pronouns and then just like go to self-checkout, and you'll probably never see that person again. And you wouldn't be a horrible human being by just being terrible to a person that you don't know. And you can go like check out your golden baby potatoes. All right, just carry on with your day and treat people like people. That's literally all I'm asking for, is you to just treat people like people. All right.
I think it's really important to talk about lost queer history, and especially like lost trans history, because there are so many people who see trans folk and they're just like, where did they all come from? We didn't have trans people before. They all just popped up. It must be because of the internet. And it's like, it's not really like that. Trans people have always existed. We're just very frequently erased. This isn't the first time that trans folk have been erased from history books. Like, I'm not going to get into it in this video, but like a lot of the First Nation communities that were colonized had two-spirited individuals, and they had their own history. It's just a lot of it has been erased. It's almost like people have been trying to cover up queerness and cover up trans people, and then in the future are like, look, see, there weren't any. But it's like, nope, always been here, just very resilient. So I think it's important to talk about this stuff, because sometimes folks don't realize that it's like, trans people have always been here. There are medical records that date back past the 1930s of research on trans folk and gender-affirming surgeries, and it's just, I don't know. I just think it's one of those things that maybe we should talk about a little more, and that I hope eventually might actually be taught in schools. Because I learned about World War II in school. I learned in depth about World War II. There was a lot of focus on it, but I never once heard about how the queer community was particularly impacted, or the fact that all of these years of medical knowledge was literally burned. Like, that's important. That sets medical advances back a whole lot when it comes to trans folk. It's really strange to try to wrap your mind around that, and also around how little it's actually spoken about. So anyway, the more people talk about it, the more we're keeping the history alive, and I think it might be important to talk about these things during Pride Month, because Pride is a celebration, but it's also so much more than that. There's a whole history that we have, you know? And if nobody talks about history, then as we've seen, history can get lost, so.
I don't think you should be banned for saying, like, teenagers should be allowed to get puberty blockers. Like, a trans teenager should be allowed to get puberty blockers. I think that that's fine. I think that's because there's plenty of evidence that suggests that like being trans is real and being trans is normal and totally within the normal range of human expression of gender and sexuality. And that there is nothing inherently dangerous about being trans. I just haven't seen any evidence of it. Like, I'm sorry. And then like the one bit of evidence that like right-wingers just like they just fucking love. Right-wingers fucking love it. They're just like, well, what about when sometimes people detransition? And it's like, okay, well, first of all, the stats for detransitioning at least are partially impacted by the fact that some people detransition, not because they aren't trans, but because their social life is too difficult for them to be publicly trans. They tried it and they were like, oh, I am not allowed to be, like, my entire family is going to disown me and I'm going to lose my job. Well, I guess I'm going to detransition so that I can live in this capitalist society. And then the percentage of adults who detransition, who got surgery as adults, this is the same risk that is with every single form of surgery. You wouldn't tell cancer patients, for example, you would not tell cancer patients, some people do chemo and it hurts them. You wouldn't tell someone who is getting like some life-saving treatment that there is some percent that it's going to fail and that therefore they shouldn't do it. Like, yes, some people are going to regret this decision. That doesn't mean everybody isn't allowed to do this anymore. That's not how you do that. For example, a ban on breast augmentation. Well, some people get breast augmentation and they get, I forget the term, but essentially there is some toxicity that is caused by like the silicone or caused by like the saline solution that is just completely fucks with some people. And it happens in like less than 1%, I think, end up removing them because like their entire body is just out of funk afterwards. You don't stop people from being able to get this surgery, this elective surgery as adults because some people don't like it afterwards. That's not how we run society. So why are we doing it for trans people?
It's just crazy that like, he's just like showing this graph and there is like one fundamental difference here is that, and the fundamental difference actually reveals itself in the graph as well, which is self-identification of LGBTQ. This is not a graph of the actual number of members who are in the LGBTQ community, but instead people who are out and self-identify as, members of the LGBTQ community.
Does he point out that distinction?
I don't know, but that's the reason why I wanted to show this really quickly. It's not like there's way more left-handed Americans now. It's just that it's no longer forced upon the population.
Let me explain this to you. I was trying to be nice, but let me just be
No, take
honest.
the gloves off.
You should go into the men's toilet.
I should go into the men's toilet with my double D tits. The
Yes.
last time I went to the men's toilet, they pushed me out of the men's toilet and told me to go to the women's.
Okay. That's very cool. But that's still the way I think it. And you asked for my opinion.
I did ask
my
for your
personal
opinion. I mean, like, if we're not going to be kind, I think radical feminists are very useful for conservatives because radical feminists are incredibly unappealing to a mainstream audience, but their anti-trans rhetoric is being co-opted by them. So you're seeing people like Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro and other right-wing pundits word for word copying radical feminist rhetoric while rejecting feminism because they hate feminism.
You said they are copying radical feminism.
Yes.
I only see them copying transphobia and hating trans people.
Exactly.
That is the only...
Because they don't care about feminism. They hate feminists, but they're saying things like gender ideology, gender cult. They're using words that radical feminists coined. You are a lesbian? I'm asking because I'm pretty sure you said that earlier in the discussion.
I am not, but I could be. Who knows? Anyways, what's the point of it?
The only reason I was asking is because they're only going to start by going after trans people. All of the radical feminists, if they get the anti-trans future they want, it's going to lead into lesbians getting pushed back in the closet. Okay,
Male,
you don't see how calling a trans woman a male wouldn't like immediately make people incredibly mad at you, because that's such a fundamental disrespect.
I can see how it can make people mad at me, but I won't stop doing it because it's just the truth. It's just how it is to be a trans woman. You need to be born a male in order to be a trans woman. Because a biological
But
woman.
you're saying that as an insult, though. You're not saying that as a matter of fact.
No.
Like, if you meet someone on the street who has Down syndrome, you don't just say to them, hey, you have Down syndrome. When you're saying male, you are saying I am not a woman. Like, I know that you think, no, I'm talking about biology, but no, you're not. You're saying I'm not a woman. Because behavior is related to culture, it's not related to biology.
I'm saying you are a trans woman. You are not a woman. To me, at least. You are a trans woman, and I will not call you man.
So wait, are you saying a black woman isn't a woman?
Of course she is. Of course a black woman is a woman.
So why is a trans woman a trans woman and not a woman? I'm a type of woman.
Because she is a trans woman. Because that is in the name. Trans means to be on the opposite side of, across of. A trans woman is across of a biological woman. I don't even care about the pronoun thing anymore, because in my language every pronoun is gender neutral. But anyways, she is not a woman. She is a trans woman, and that's fine. It's fine. Being a trans woman is fine.
Of course.
A trans woman is not a biological woman. Women are women.
Of course, but there's no such thing as a biological woman.
Yes, there is. There is a very clear
womanhood doesn't come from biology.
Where does it come from then? Identity?
Yeah, it's a cultural indicator. Culture decides what is a woman, not biology.
No way.
Otherwise, we would see women in other species. We don't see women. There are no women dogs. There are female dogs. Sure.
What? Hold on. Hold on. What? Women dogs? Those dogs are female.
Yes.
Just like women are female.
Right, but there's no dogs that are women, right?
No, because woman is a word specifically for human beings.
Because it's cultural.
No, it's not cultural.
It's only for human beings because it's a cultural thing that we assign.
Okay.
Because like if like in the instance of like feral children or something, or like if human beings were raised on their own without talking to any other person, never learned how to speak, they would still have a sex, but they wouldn't have a gender. Gender is something that's taught. It's something that's part of societies. It has nothing to do with the state of nature.
As to the idea that people who are trans are all being groomed into a gender cult, that's a non-falsifiable claim. It's the same claim that was made against gay people and still is today. The idea that the only reason a person could ever be like that is because of abuse. If you want to counter that, you could point out the fact that gender divergent people, by our standard, not only exist around the world today, but have existed in many historical texts going back. You can literally find thousands of years old social systems that were more accommodating of gender divergence in that respect, at least, than the modern West with its gender binary is today. You know, or to put it another way, if you genuinely want to believe this non-falsifiable claim that every single one of the millions and millions of homosexuals and transsexuals out there are only what they are because of abuse, and this has been going on for literally all of human history, at that point, what you really would want to do then would be to limit abuse. Not like fight against trans people, you know what I mean? Like at that point you're not even arguing against the concept of trans people. You've invented a boogeyman suggestion in your head, and then you're suggesting that its existence must then prove some other entirely separate thing. I suppose that, all the cultures throughout history that have had third genders, or all the Native Americans, like just every single person in their society had been groomed into that. Whatever. It's a ridiculous claim. You can make fun of it. There are plenty of other very relevant statistics that can be pulled up, like the idea that parental support can decrease the likelihood of suicidal ideation with young trans people by like to 1/17 of what it would be otherwise. Like if you have a 17% rate of suicidal ideation within the past 3 months of a trans youth, parental support could drop that to 1%. I just made up the 17% number there, but I believe 1/17 was the statistic cited. So yeah, trans people, by virtue of being trans, the things associated with them being trans, that doesn't hurt them. As for whether or not they hurt others, we still have like no evidence at all that trans people pose a sexual risk to others. The idea that their inclusion in bathrooms of their choosing are going to hurt others, despite years of fear-mongering by Republicans and conservatives worldwide and their Terfs stooges. We just really don't have any evidence of that. There's just not evidence of it. Right now, they're going on about the whole, they're grooming the children thing. But again, you can point this out, and the data suggests it. First of all, sex education reduces the rate of child abuse because the young people then have the tools and awareness to understand what is being done to them if they're being abused, like how to describe it, and that it's unacceptable. If a young person has never even heard of anything related to sex and they start being sexually abused by a relative, they don't really have a way of knowing, at least not innately, that what's happening to them is bad or abusive because they haven't been told that it is. It's generally a good thing to educate children to like make them aware of when they're being hurt by others. It's just a good rule. Remember, laughing at people who make arguments like this is a core part of rhetoric. If a person makes an argument that is laughable, you have a right, no, an obligation to laugh at them. That is something you should definitely do. Because these arguments often are laughable, as are the arguments that trans people hurt society broadly. Leaving aside the fact that the existence of people outside the binary has been a constant throughout human history in various places and times. The idea that society is hurt by the existence of and acceptance of a minority group has been the calling card reactionary argument for literally every kind of social acceptance. Transphobes often argue on the idea that woman is like an innate, set-in-stone concept referring to like gametes or something, because they can't say like it's when you have like tits or pussy, because you can grow tits or pussy now. You can do magic, whatever. It's like gametes and chromosomes or whatever, like an innate thing. The argument is this, okay? So the argument is about like the semantic and totally arbitrary and flexible nature of language, and it's about water. Okay, are you ready for it? Okay, so imagine you have two people, right? It's me and it's you, and I'm like, hey, do you want this water bottle? And you don't trust me, so you're like, what's in this water bottle? Why are you giving it to me? And I'm like, oh, it's just water. Don't worry about it. They smile and hand you the water bottle, okay? And you're like, okay, and you drink the water bottle. All right? Now here's the thing, okay? Here's the trick. I lied to you. It's not just water. Inside that water bottle are actually several parts per million of trace minerals that get added to every water bottle produced by that company to promote teeth health. There's like a little bit of basic mineral additive to maintain proper flavor and dental health. Now, jokes aside, if I pointed that out to you, did I lie to you when I said it was just water? Like really, right? So when I said it's just water, did I lie? In a semantic sense, no. No one in reality would ever say that was a lie. No one would ever say that. I mean, there are people saying yes right now because I'm like playing it up for the sake of the argument, but like in reality, no human would consider that a lie. Like nobody's ever like been said, here's a thing, but it's wrong because you didn't give the molecular composition of every atom in it. That's like really dumb, right? So, okay, imagine the same scenario over again, second time. You know, I hold out the water to you, and you're like, what's in it? And I'm like, oh, it's just water, okay? And you drink it. And I did lie to you again, okay? In that water is several parts per million of cyanide, a lethal amount, actually, and you die. Now, did I lie to you when I said it's just water? Everyone would believe yes. Literally everyone. Yeah, you laced it with poison. It's not just water. The question is, why was the latter a lie and the former not? In both cases, the parts per million of non-water was the same. The amount of water per volume of liquid was identical in both cases. Utility, right there. Because it wasn't just whether or not it was water, it was whether it would serve the purpose of water. That's it. When people hear it's just water, they're not actually asking, is it the chemical water in its entirety? They're asking, does it serve the purpose of water? Is it functionally water? Will it do what I expect it to? It's shared communication. You're actually making assumptions on both ends, right? We do this all the time for like a ton of things, right? What flows through rivers? Water does. But like, not really. Water in a river is like 5% sediment, sometimes more. But we still say it's water because when we say it's river water or water flows through the river, you know what the other person means. But here's the other thing. If you were to bottle river water and give it to another person saying it's just water and they drank it and they spat it out because it's river water, you would have lied to them. So it's water in the river, but it's not water in the water bottle, is it? It's dirty water. Because water in a water bottle is supposed to be clean. So when you say it's water, you're not really saying it's water. You're saying it's water in line with the service, expectation, and functionality that you would expect of water in a water bottle. This is a linguistic game we do like 24/7, all the time, without realizing it. It's just like a basic, yeah, potable water, but not just potable water, right? There are other changes that you could make to that water that are potable, makes it potable, but you'd still be like, what the fuck is this, you know? There are other things that you could do. Potable water can have trace amounts of your urine in it, couldn't it? Yeah, it could. There are so many little presuppositions that we make when it comes to like what things are. And you can lie while telling the truth, can't you? Right? What's that in the river? Water. True. What's this in the water bottle? Water. False. This is river water. I think this is remarkably interesting. There are no like firm lines anywhere here. It's just like an abstract language game. Now, with all of this being established, woman refers to gametes and hormones, and that's all it means? Really? So water, a definitive molecular compound that can be observed in reality as an empirical thing, has a bunch of different definitions depending on its use and value and utility. Water is a molecule. You can test scientifically whether something is water or not. It's not some arbitrary concept like, you know, a woman refers to something. No, water refers to water. That's what it means. And still, even with water, it can be this like really contextual language game. But with woman, we're just supposed to believe it's like, oh, it's biology and that's that, you know. It's just this, you know. Again, like you can't just like sit a conservative down and do like the 5-minute rant at them. I do think you can do some back and forth though, because you would ask them the questions. Ask them, am I lying when I say this is water when it just has the trace minerals? No. Am I lying when I say this is water and it's got cyanide? Yes. Why? And here's the thing. They cannot engage in linguistic prescriptivism without like while still answering that question. You see? Answering that question, how something can be true or false when describing empirical molecular structures depending entirely on utility, and only being asked whether something is water, they cannot answer that without cracks opening in their argument.